Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kramer. Our guest today is Steve Russell from Upstart 13. Let's get into another amazing conversation. I love doing these interviews, Steve. I love them. We extract so much good shit out of you guys, my guests, I'm saying. I know that this is going to be another great episode. I want to welcome you to the show. And let's start by talking about what you've got going on in your business. It is growing at a rapid clip. I know it's still a newish business, although 4 years. I mean, that's good, right? At the time that we're recording this. Uh, School us. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited for the conversation as well. As you mentioned, I'm the CEO of this business. We build software, hopefully that people love. That's what we strive for every day. And we take a different approach from most companies in our space. We really become more of a guide and a consultant very early on in the conversation, and we do seek to try to get into the heart of and the nitty-gritty of what our customers are trying to accomplish as a business first, really understanding their business objectives. And oftentimes, our clients will have either something in hand that they've already been working on and they've gotten it so far and they've kind of hit either a glass ceiling or, in the worst cases, a Mack truck, and they have no idea where to go next. And that's when we get really jazzed up, and we have the expertise and the experience to step in and just really understand what's derailing them and get them back on track. And honestly, we love that. We love the strategic side of things as much as having conversations around how to take a product to market if they're not there yet, or how to help them transition if it's an internal tool and they're trying to get their organization to move towards something new. And of course, the good old fashioned hard work of doing the engineering as well.
So you've got your hands in the clay.
Yeah. It's under my nails.
uh, short story here. I've got a really good friend and business colleague. He has a multi-million dollar business, and it's primarily an online based company. And when I first met him, I was doing business consulting and would come on, as a freelancer kind of consultant and get my hands in the clay and help people build their businesses. Now that was, separate division of my company. So I always was doing the mindset stuff as well. But also, love to have my hands in the clay. I've always loved seeing a visionary light up when they're talking about their thing. You can feel it when an entrepreneur is talking about their baby, their business, their vision, their dream. Like I would be like, I'm going to help you do that. I have to help you do that. Right now, I obviously still do that from the mindset side of things. I don't do as much of the business development consulting side, but I've been now I mean, I developed this friendship with this individual, and I've watched him grow from like a team of, I don't know, 10 to like over 100. And as the business continued to grow, he used to be that hands in the clay type of business owner. And as he continued to scale, he took on more of that CEO founder role, less hands in the clay, right? And you start to wear different hats and you start to embody a different persona. Your self image starts to change.
Absolutely.
Now, conversation that we had a couple weeks ago was a whole bunch of shit was going wrong in his business. And as the friend, I had to say, okay, setting friend aside, being mindset coach, we have to get you back in love with your business. Now, for people who are listening, a lot of them are the hands in the clay entrepreneur. Now they may also have the company that's growing with a big team, like you've got a team, right? But you're still hands in the clay. And the reason that I wanted to bring this story up is because you're, you're helping your clients with some different things, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's creating something brand new, a product that they can take to market. Sometimes it is maybe that system, that back end system or whatever that may be. So for those who are listening and it's still their baby, it's still their creation, they're still in love, hopefully, with their business,
Yeah.
right? Um, and they come to a company like yours. They've got that vision, whatever that is.
Yeah.
What is that process typically look like? Because I know before we started the recording, you were telling me, we were joking a little bit, right? I said every industry, they've got the common mindset stuff, right? That their clients just keep bumping up against over and over. It's like, oh my God, broken record, right? I joked. I said, that's why I wrote my first book. All right, here you go. Read the book. I want to talk about this from your perspective because for someone listening who's saying, "Wow, I've been thinking about creating an app, or I've been thinking about, launching this completely new software, or whatever it is." Let's talk a little bit about where people tend to get in their own way and how we can help them to get out of their way so that they can be successful in that endeavor.
Yeah, wow. I love this topic. So, how I see the world today, 4 years in on this business, and maybe a little bit of context here as well is, um, I've been in corporate roles my entire career, and I wanted so desperately years ago, 10, 15 years ago, to leave all that behind, start a company, do my own thing. Never had the courage. I was in my own way. And it wasn't until my last corporate role where I was in an environment that really revealed, it gave me a very good mirror to look into and realize that the skills and the experience was there. I was ready. So 4 years in, we're 180 something people. We're in at least 82 cities, 20 countries, and I honestly attribute most of the success that we've had so far to focusing on who they are, not where they are, in terms of who we brought into our business, which is why we're so dispersed. Plus, we're 100% remote. So, what we run into oftentimes is three categories of buyers, three categories of customers. You have the entrepreneurs, people out there doing this on their own, or in a very small team. You've got somewhere in the middle where they've gotten going. They're somewhere between 2 million in annual revenue to 20 million-ish. And they still feel like a startup. And then you've got larger accounts that we work with where they're closer to 50 million, upwards of 300, 400 million in annual revenue. And the mindsets, ironically, are very distinct by category. So if we talk about those entrepreneurs, we love working with them the most because they are the most energetic, they're the most agile, they're the most receptive to wanting to gather as much help and ideas as they can. But they're also the most stubborn and the most hot-headed over what it is they're trying to build. And sadly, we see all too often, this really bothers me to my core. We see a lot of people very stuck on an idea, even if the idea is huge. It could be a huge vision, change the world kind of vision, but they're unable to step outside of that and look at their idea from the outsider's perspective, from their customer's perspective, or from their market perspective. And they have this such a crystallized idea, vision of what they want to build. Their way is the only way this is ever going to work. And sadly, what we see with them is they'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars chasing after this one idea, this one big thing, the one way to do it. And they're effectively pouring their money down the drain and signing up their vision for a failure, um, which is really sad. And the way to get around that, the way to help those types of people is to step back and start thinking about empirical evidence. What evidence have they gathered? What validation have they been able to gather so far in their journey that guarantees that their way of thinking, what it is that they actually want to put out there for the client, is the absolute way that the client is just like clamoring over themselves to get at this product. And when you get to that stage, that's the time to really put money behind it. And the way I describe this is taking a series of small bets. So rather than packing all of the gunpowder you have into the cannon and firing your one cannonball at a target that you don't know you're calibrated to hit, just fire a bullet. Take a low risk, low disruption, low cost approach and just listen. Does the bullet hit the target? No? Okay, let's calibrate. Nope, calibrate some more. Yes. Okay, let's do a few more bullets before we fire that cannonball. But now we know that we have a calibrated line of sight to what it is that we're trying to do. And with technology in particular, what that really means in reality for all of us is, will a customer give me money for this product? Are they willing to pay for this? Have I solved a problem they have in the way that they would like to use and give me money for it? And when we get there, then fire as many cannonballs as you've got. But that's how I like to think about it. And the middle and the other group are a little different. So
Okay, right there. That was powerful wisdom, powerful guidance. Now, this is a principle that I've seen in other industries as well. This is a common issue for entrepreneurs. You are absolutely right. I've seen it in almost 2 decades of the work that I've been doing. I've seen it a lot. And not even necessarily my clients, oftentimes it's my colleagues. I see people come and go. I see people who are so rigid, dogmatic even about their idea that they're completely unwilling to accept the fact that there's evidence that they just need to maybe pivot or look over here instead of being so focused on over there. Um, and I found, and perhaps you can speak to this because you're in the trenches with these individuals, creating these things with them. Oftentimes, it's not that you're completely off base. It's not that your initial idea is so out there that there's no way in, hell that it ever could be successful. It's that sometimes certain pieces of it just need to be tweaked or adjusted. The messaging needs to change, or some element of it just is off. That's it. It's just off. So I'd
yeah.
love for you to share from your perspective what you are experiencing with your clients.
Alicia, as you said it, I had this tingle down the back of my neck because I was like, she is so right. The entrepreneurs we've seen have amazing ideas, ideas that you hear and you're like, I want that product. And you want to be a customer. Like they have, it's clear that this is a problem that's worth solving and people will pay money for this. But sadly, it got to the point where I didn't really want to work in this space, particularly with entrepreneurs, because I couldn't watch anybody else throw their 401k down the drain or money that they've raised from friends and family, and they've basically just blown it and have nothing to show for it. And I've seen two common trends. Trend number one is the vision is spot on. Like they don't need any more evidence. It's there. What they've be what they've become, and I think all of us entrepreneurs are like this, we're all fanatical about what it is that we're trying to do. We are fanatics. These guys, they become fanatical about what it needs to look like, what capabilities need to be available to users on day one or day five. And they get so wrapped up in those details, they then want to perfect. And all the while they're delaying getting something in the hands of their users, which is where the real evidence comes for us. The empirical evidence is who's using what, right? And how habitual is that usage? How much of the feature set is being consumed by these particular users that keep coming back? There's so many avenues to collect this data. And the earlier you get that into the hands of the user, the faster you can start learning, which allows you then to almost like using a navigation system to build your product, allow your habitual users to help guide you to your destination, which is never reached in software, sadly. So that's the biggest, most common trend that I see. There is a second trend, and this is where they've gotten past that initial get to market. They're already in market. They have some users. They may be producing some early stage revenue. So they're feeling like this is succeeding. The challenge that those guys run into is a balance, a trade-off between investment that's available, capital that I have to continue investing into the product, and the overwhelming sense of capabilities they want to build. And what often happens is they'll try to cut corners, they'll try to do things on the cheap. And it's understandable. You know, they want to give their users the capabilities, and they also have budget constraints. So, as every company does. And when you're at that stage, it's usually smaller. So they're trying to get a lot done with a very little. What happens here is those corner cuts, they start to introduce defects naturally. They start to introduce capabilities that aren't necessarily fully built out, or they weren't designed in the most intuitive manner. And all of that creates friction for the user, which creates turnoff. So what happens is they're essentially like they're planting landmines along their own journey ahead of themselves that eventually they'll step on, and then they start to see a degrade in usage or dissatisfaction from paying customers, and that turns into non-renewals, turns into churning, and then they start having to thrash, and they reach for salvation. They'll throw money into something like this is the next new big feature that's going to get me over the hump, hoping that it will, and it may have a short-term uptick, but eventually it goes back the same way. And to rectify that means going back to the beginning and going to work on the foundation that was poorly laid in the first place. So that's a tricky trade-off. You got to have both experience of product delivery and also technology to be able to navigate that well, because it is an art and a science.
This
Anyway,
is
enough of
this is going to be a
that.
loaded question. And I'm curious how you're going to answer this. Um, never asked a guest this question before, but based on what you just
I'm
shared with
bracing
me.
myself.
Okay. All right. I'm
Go for
so
it.
curious. I'm just so curious. If you could put the perfect mindset into your clients
Yeah.
so that they could be successful based on everything you just shared, what would that look like?
Ooh, okay. This sounds like some kind of matrix download that somebody's dialing for. Based on the fact that the companies we've worked with that were able to get past some of these challenges, and it was painful for everybody. A lot of difficult conversations, a lot of late nights. Everybody knows the story. Those that succeed, they always say the same things back to us. This is what they tell me. I'm glad that you had the courage to be honest with me. I'm glad that you didn't just say yes flat out when I asked you, "Okay, can you go do this?" You said, The answer is not yes, but it's not no. We'll figure it out. Give us time. And sometimes that means getting in a room, right? And just really unpacking what is the objective? What are we trying to get to? And then one of the other methodologies that I've seen help a lot of entrepreneurs is WIN, WIN. What's important now? And if you can constantly keep coming back to that, like we had this one particular entrepreneur, I'll tell you this story. He was a 401k user, so he's using his 401k and he's poured money into getting so far. And we find him, and he's got some assets. He's not in market with this. Beautiful vision, amazing idea, stuck on how to do it, and I guess constantly trying to chase that I need to get to market, but had this idea of perfection in his mind. And I sat down with him many, many times and had the same conversation that we're having right now. Like, hey, this is where people go wrong. Like, back up, start doing something smaller. Like, this guy had 100 ideas inside his one idea that could make just one product, 100 products. And if only we got started with one seed idea, that would have been enough. And that's what I would say. Like, I would download, first of all, strip all of it away, get down to that nucleus. What is the one must-have thing that you're trying to accomplish, and make it as small and simple as you can. And if you can wrap your head around that, then take all pride and ego out of the equation. Now, we might tell ourselves, oh, I leave my ego at the door, or I've got no pride in this, there's no sacred cows. You hear all those phrases in business. The reality is, when somebody starts telling you your baby's ugly, you feel it. It stings, and you react, and then you become very defensive. Like, try to push all that out of the way. Like, seek the feedback. Where am I going wrong with this? What questions have I not asked about what I'm thinking about and how I'm going to get to market? What are you not telling me because you're afraid that I might react badly to it? Like, get all of the nasty topics out on the table. The topics we generally try to avoid, get them all out. The minute that you start having those conversations, it gets real, real fast. Talk about how much it's going to cost. A lot of people go into a venture thinking, hey, it's going to cost me 200 grand or 400 grand or whatever it might be. I guarantee that number is never right. It's usually way too small for what they're thinking, because they've got this big vision, and they think that they're going to accomplish it with what they've got, and they'll run out of capital before they get there, and of course that equals a failure too. So when you get in a room with somebody like me, or with a business like Upstart 13 that wants to be having a voice at the table, wants to help you navigate around the cliffs and see the light of day and get this product out there and wow your users and change people's lives. That's what we're all about. When you're in that room, be willing to get into all those difficult topics and listen. Take a lot of notes, ask more questions than statements. We were blessed with two of these, and one of these I tell people. So I try to ask a lot of questions, but do more listening, and see what you learn, and go reflect on it. And then if evidence is needed to validate either what you're hearing from the people around the table, or what you believe to be true in your head, go collect that evidence. Let the facts speak for themselves. Bring the data, and don't discount overly negative or overly positive data. Look at it all.
You answered that brilliantly. This
Phew.
is this is actually the perfect time for me to ask Steve, how can our listeners learn more about your company, and how can they connect with you?
The easiest way is to go to our website, which is upstart13, the number 13.com, or go find us on LinkedIn, Upstart 13, or come looking for me, Steve Russell at Upstart 13. I'm out there. You'll have plenty of avenues to connect with us.
This has been a fun conversation. I love how we're talking specifically about what you do, but really the principles, the core fundamental mindset principles and success principles are applicable as entrepreneurs to all of our business. So this
Oh,
has been a fantastic episode, Steve.
loved it. Thank you.
And thank you to all of our listeners. You know we are doing this for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.